So I'll be doing my informative speech on bow hunting. Bow hunting is it's a sport, you could say, and it's a sport that is the connection between you and this animal is an unbelievable connection, and you can't get the feeling of bow hunting anywhere else. It's just a feeling that you get when you get an animal bow hunting that it's something you just can't get anywhere else. It's much harder. The animal, it's easier for them to smell you. So scent control is a big thing. You need scent-free clothing. When I say scent-free clothing, or you want your scent to smell more like the outside, meaning if you're around oak trees, you want your stuff to smell like oak trees. I put pine needles in mine, oak leaves, stuff like that, just to make your clothing not smell like, say, the fumes from your car or the inside of your car or your pets especially, because those animals do not like pet smell. It smells like something that is preying on those animals. And when you're bow hunting, you're much closer. Unlike when you're gun hunting, you're within 80 yards, maximum of 80 yards. So you're much closer to this animal, where if you were gun hunting, you could be out thousands of yards where the animal doesn't smell you. Now when you're bow hunting, that 80 yards is a smaller or closer to them, so you need to be smelling like a natural scent. Camo is another big thing. They can see you. Again, if you're bow hunting, you're much closer, where gun hunting you can't. So you need a camo. Say if you're in the desert, you need a desert-like camo, or you need a camo that blends in with your surroundings. And it can't, if it's the opposite, it's just much easier for that animal to, you just look like an object that is not supposed to be there. And they can pick that out very easily. They can also hear you. Hearing is a big thing, because if you have clothing that's really loud when you're turning around and doing whatever, and it's much easier for them to hear you because you are closer. When you are closer, it's way harder. If your tree stand's loud, your tent's loud, whatever you're in, it's loud. So with bow hunting, you're gonna obviously need a bow. This is my bow. It's a Bowtech. There are many brands like Bowtech. They're all gotten pretty darn good. It comes down to personal preference at this point. Basically, they're super expensive now, rather than other things. You have a sight. This is probably your most important thing. You can set them up for different ranges. This one's, it goes 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. It's got 6 pins. You got your rest, so your arrow sits on here. And when you pull your bow back, this thing snaps and it shuts down like that. So you have that. Here's your stabilizer, so when you hold your bow, it makes it easier to balance it straight up and down. Bows now come in many different axle lengths and many different draw weights. So the more stronger you get, the more poundage you can pull, and the more poundage you pull, the easier and faster it is to kill an animal. So along with your bow, you get a release. So this is your release. This one is a hook one, and it's got a trigger on it, just like your gun would. And that trigger is just as deadly as the trigger on your gun. It's probably way more sensitive than a trigger on a gun, just because it's way easier and it's less poundage than a gun. Or not poundage, but it just doesn't fly as fast. So you pull that back, and when you pull that back, you just hit this and your arrow flies out. So then along with that, you get your arrows. You also have your quiver, which holds your arrows, goes on the side of your bow. Then your arrows, there's different types of arrows. Some people like heavy arrows. Heavy arrows fly slower, they hit harder. Some people like heavy ones. It just depends. But there's straightness of arrows. The straighter it is, the straighter it flies, obviously, and the faster. Then you have your broadhead, which is the bullet of your bow and arrow, like your bullet of your gun. That does all the damage. That's what kills it. It's super sharp. It's like a razor blade. You don't want to touch it. It will hurt you. So now we're going to go on to the different ways to bow hunt. There is a tree stand. That's my personal preference, is a way to hunt out of a tree stand with your bow and arrow. You can do it with a gun, but with a tree stand with your bow and arrow, it just makes it way harder. Like I said, you gotta be closer to the animal. So that's when you're up in the tree. And then there's the ground blinds, which this is probably one of the harder ways to hunt, because you're just on the same level as the animal that you're hunting. It's way easier for them to see you, which is the big thing, because movement. It's hard to, because you obviously have to get on the animal, so the movement is very hard in this. And then there's the natural ground blind, which With the regular ground bind, it kind of is, it's an object out of its element. Obviously, it's not natural, where this is more natural, so it doesn't stick out as much to the animals. But movement, again, is a hard thing. And then you have your spot and stalk, which this is, if you ask me, the coolest of the things, where you spot the animal and then you stalk it. And it just, that's the best way to hunt it. I feel like it's just awesome. It's super hard, but it's the coolest way to hunt it. So the first time I started bow hunting was when I was 10. Saved up all my money, bought my bow, went bow hunting, and it's just, from then I've learned that bow hunting can teach you many things. And one of those things that's taught me is patience. With bow hunting, patience is key. You gotta wait for the right time, right shot, right everything. And with bow hunting, the patience is, if you don't wait for that time, you're gonna screw it up. And it could, bow hunting is a game of inches, basically. So if you're off by an inch, because you should have waited, you might not kill that animal. It just makes it super hard, and patience is definitely key in bow hunting. So if you're looking for a challenge and want to take part in one of the first forms of hunting ever, that goes all the way back to the Stone Ages, consider bow hunting. It's a very fun, it's competitive, you can be competitive with it, you can do whatever you want with it, and it's a great thing. So thank you for listening to my speech.